Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. Here at the channel you'll find interviews, podcasts and content on a load of different subjects including mental health, football, films, TV, conspiracy theories, music and more. You can find us on Twitter at ACEcast_nation, or you can join our nearly 3,000 Facebook followers now by searching Ace Podcast Nation. The quickest way to get our content is to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notification bell. Today's show is an interview with a man all the parents of young children in the UK will be very familiar with, as seen on Cbeebies and Cbeebies, but is also an actor and presenter of Trash TV. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Alex Winters to the show. Welcome, Alex. You okay?
Oh, good evening, mate. Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
It's not a problem. It's, I felt guilty because I felt like I was nagging you a bit, but like I was eager to get you on and you'd said yes, but I knew you were super busy. So I was like, do I send another message and do I send another
No, absolutely. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's been a bit crazy of late. I'm just glad that you kept I'm glad that you kept on, because it's something I wanted to do. You know, as a fellow Cardiff boy, yeah, I wanted to have a chat.
Yeah, Welshmen help each other out. And funny enough, tomorrow's guest, who I haven't named publicly because I'm worried that I'm going to curse her, because he's in a similar boat to you in that he's really, really busy. So I felt like I'm almost harassing him. I've known him for a long time, so I've been a bit more.
And I believe he's our friend. He's our friend in Vegas, isn't he?
Yes, yeah. So he's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to that.
He's a good lad. Yeah, we've shared a stage together, he and I.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, funny enough, he said when I spoke to him the other day, he said he's got a lot of time for you. So I used to play football with his brother. So
right, we were very lucky
because he was very small.
Ah, right, I see. We were on. We shared the stage together at the promotion parade celebration down the bay.
Oh yeah.
The first time that Cardiff were promoted to the Premier League. So I was hosting the stage down the bay, and our friend, and I won't say the name if you've not said it, was singing, and that was.
He likes to sing song.
What a day!
He's always been like that though.
Yeah, dramatic.
Yeah, well, so I think you've got to be doing what he does.
Yeah, that's true.
So, okay, so you were obviously most people know you from Cbeebies. Was like being a kids presenter always the plan, or did it just sort of come about?
Do you know what? I've never had a plan, and I'm not sure I've got one now. But I suppose I would be lying if I said that it wasn't in my mind, because growing up there was something about children's television that I really loved, and it was something that I thought I'd love to have a go at that. And with my sister, well, both my sisters, we would play Blue Peter around the house, and we'd I mean, this is a long time ago, and we'd have a cardboard shoebox with a toilet roll stuck to it, and that was the camera, and we used to take it in turns. Someone being the cameraman and the other person being the presenter, and then and so growing up in school and outside of school, as well as sport, I love drama, and so I went to a lot of drama groups in the Sherman Theatre and Lanover Hall, and so I was always involved in that. And I went to uni and did drama and theatre studies as well. But it was a surprise. I got a phone call from a friend who said that Cbeebies are advertising publicly for 2 presenters. Now, the BBC never advertise for presenting jobs. So they never say, right, we need a new breakfast news host, So it really was a one-off, and I'm not sure they've sort of really ever done it again. And my friend said, why didn't you go for it? And at the time, I'd quit acting, and I was a picture framer in Taff's Well.
All right.
In Cardiff, or just outside Cardiff. And I wasn't going to go for it, and it was my wife's encouragement, really, and positivity. And she just said, look, this is a real opportunity to get back into something, or to do something that you would really love and that you would be good at. And I just said that it was pointless even applying, because there'd be thousands, which there were. There were thousands, and a few auditions, and a blackout later, and I got the job. The blackout being in my very last callback, when there was just 4 of us, and they were taking 2 of us on. I'm in Television Centre in the studio, and they were filming us doing different links. And I was with Kerry, who also got the job with me. And she was dressed up as a carrot. I was dressed up as a tomato. And I'd been ill all that weekend, and tried to tell them. And in the middle of this link, I blacked out.
Oh, no.
That was in London. And then the next thing I really remember is waking up in hospital in the Heath in Cardiff.
Jeez.
My cousin had driven to London, got me, and I ended up in hospital with pneumonia and pleurisy. He still got the job, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have been good. You must have been good before the blackout.
Exactly.
Maybe they...
Do you know what? And that DVD is around the BBC somewhere. You can actually see that, and you just see me stumble off camera. But so it was never a plan. And to be honest, in this kind of business, when you're a presenter, broadcaster, actor, whatever, the only sort of plan you can ever really have is to get yourself out there and be seen and go to auditions and try and get work. Where that might be, who knows? In 5 years' time, I mean, who knows what I'll be doing? I could be acting, I could be on Coronation Street, I might be on local radio. I don't know. So the plan is to...
And I think because of the way the world's going with streaming and internet radio and digital radio and just internet sites and TV, Facebook have got TV programs now. I think if you're in that sort of entertainment world, you could go from one extreme to the other very quickly, in terms of you could be doing like a TV presenting role 1 minute, and then the next minute you could be starring in a TV show on a streaming service, or whatever, because there's so much, so many different levels, and there's so many opportunities everywhere. Everywhere's looking for content, everywhere's looking for presenters and actors, and
absolutely. I think there's a lot more opportunity, isn't there?
That's the word. There's a lot of opportunities.
There's definitely a lot more opportunity, and it makes things more real. But with that, though, comes a plethora of candidates, I suppose. So The World and His Wife has got their own YouTube channel and this and that, and so everyone thinks they're a presenter and a singer and and that's part of the sort of X Factor culture as well, isn't it? That sort of celebrity thing. So it has its positives and negatives. The negatives for me is that there's some terrible content out there.
Yeah.
Did I say that was positive? I meant negative. But the positive is that at least people can give it a go, and especially talented ones. They can give it a go and have an opportunity to be seen, whether they're as a radio DJ or a podcast interview or an actor, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I think something, actually, just going back a little bit, you were saying about when you were playing Blue Peter, when we just talked off the air, then we were saying about, I'd said about my son that had to make his choices for his GCSEs, and we'd both sort of said, we didn't know what we wanted to do even really sort of now, let alone when we were 14, 15, 16. And you saying about the Blue Peter thing reminded me of me and my brother with a cassette radio and a microphone plugged in, doing like a radio show and a top 40 thing and a radio show. And then I've ended up, and I've had, I've never done anything like this. But then all of a sudden, over the last couple of years, I've wanted to do it and put it off for one reason or another. And then finally, over the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, I thought, right, I'm going to just do it, and it'll either go down in flames and be entertaining, or it'll go well and see where it goes. It's just at least I can say, like, I tried it, because I was getting to the point where it was frustrating me that I hadn't tried it. It was like almost like this circle of I was putting it off because of my own sort of issues with anxiety, but then equally because I wasn't doing it, I was getting more frustrated with not doing it, and then it's just like this big thing. So it literally, over the space of 2 years, I put it off for a very long time, and then in the space of about 24 hours, I sort of set it all up and done it, and got some people I knew to come and do some shows, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to do it. But anyway, sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent. It reminded me of the cassette thing with my brother.
But I think that's good. I think that's good, and I think it's good that you've overcome anxiety and that you've actually given something a go. Because if you don't give it a go, then you'll never know. And I think that's what my wife had said to me with that Cbeebies audition. If you don't give it a go, you'll never know. And so for yourself, if you personally don't give this a go, you'll never know. You might hate it. You might do a few more episodes and never do another podcast again, or decide you don't like it. But if you don't do it, and I genuinely now, at the age of 42, and never having had a consistent sort of regular job for longer than a few years, I'm in a place now where I'm back again, looking to stay in broadcasting and acting after having spent a few years in events business, and doing something that I enjoy and that makes me happy. And no matter what that is for any of us, I just think that's really important, that you just find something that you enjoy and that you give things a go and don't think that they're ever impossible. So no, I think it's great that you're doing this.
It sounds like so with that Cbeebies interview for you was a bit of a sliding doors moment, because it sounds like, from what you were saying then, you were almost drifting away from like the sort of acting or that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, there was no drifting.
If you had not gone for that interview, you could have a completely different life. You could have been doing.
Oh no, I definitely would. I'd finished, and I'd started, with a friend. I'd started a picture framing shop, and I'll be honest, I know it's random, but I enjoyed that. I love art, and I still love doing things hands-on, and that sort of satisfied a creative side in me as well.
Did you ever get to do Blue Peter when you were working with like Cbeebies?
Do you know what? I was really, really chuffed, because it was for their comic relief episode. They invited myself and Katie, another presenter on Cbeebies, and the two of us were guests with others on the comic relief show. I think we were taking part in like obviously this is Blue Peter, some kind of world record, and it was for like custard pies in the face or something like that. But that was a real moment for me, being on Blue Peter.
Yeah, I can only imagine, because like those things which you, like you said, like we were just saying, like you remember as a kid, which you did, if you then go full circle and do them for real, I think is a big moment for anyone, isn't it? I think whether it's a sports person or dreaming of performing at Wembley or whatever it may be, it can be a big moment. So it just sprung to my mind then, because I couldn't remember you doing it, but I thought, well,
no, I did. So my next moment, of course, is playing for Cardiff City at Wembley. I'm not sure that's ever going to happen, but
Yeah, I think that ship might have sailed. But you never know.
Hey,
A couple of
hey,
relegations now, and
well, I'm lucky enough that I at least got to play on the pitch, because Kev McNaughton invited me to play at his testimonial. So
wicked.
I'll be honest, just sitting in the changing rooms with some of those players, was enough for me. And getting out on
Yeah,
the pitch and playing, it was unreal. So yeah, I'm very lucky, and that's probably, that's all my boxes ticked now.
yeah, that's going to be
Hollywood
one for the
next.
bucket list, isn't it? Yeah, Hollywood. You've got to just get a movie with Vinnie Jones, and you'll be all right.
I know. Get us in a Marvel film. We're laughing.
Yeah, there we go. I watched. Did you watch? Have you watched Avengers Endgame? I've got to ask you.
Yeah,
Ask everyone.
absolutely. I have. Yeah, me and the family, and
What did you think?
I was very, very satisfied with it. Actually,
Yeah,
um,
I was surprised at how satisfied I was. I thought for sure that there would be something which I'd be a bit like, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do that, and they kind of hit every note for me.
yeah, I think they wrapped it up in a good way. No real, no complaints. Actually, I felt very sad in a couple of
Yeah, I
places.
cried a
I'm
couple
still
of times.
still wary of giving away spoilers, so I felt very sad in places. But I was happy with it. I really enjoyed it. Actually, really enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yeah. I thought it was really good. We did a 2 hour show on it because I normally try and keep the shows to about an hour. A couple have gone over, depending on what we're talking about. And I kind of said to the two guys who I did it with, I just said, look, we're going to just do it. We'll go through the film. If it takes 2 hours, it takes 2 hours. If it takes an hour, it takes an hour. But because there was so much to talk about and so much, and every time we'd sort of get towards the end, we'd be like, oh, yeah, and remember this? And then they did that. And it was really good. And I think the one Reese, who did the show with us, he was not impressed with a couple of, he didn't like what they did with Thor. However, I could see why people didn't like it with the Thor part because I thought, I liked it, but I could see why people wouldn't. But his
Yeah,
reasoning was not what I thought of. His reasoning was in Iron Man 3, they did PTSD really well with Tony Stark and the sort of how he was struggling with PTSD after the first Avengers film. And he felt that in Avengers Endgame, they could have done that with Thor, but they made it a bit of more of a joke, which I thought was an
yeah.
interesting reason not to like it. But for me, I thought it was quite funny, and
No, I thought it was daft in a
yeah,
sense,
I
but
mean,
I thought it was okay.
Thor's had a lot. He's
Okay.
had a lot of his like coming in to save the day moment, hasn't he?
Yeah,
So it was an entertaining way to sort of put him still in the limelight, but not the sort of the big savior. So
yeah.
I quite
No, I thought it was good. I thought it was good.
um,
I'm looking forward to Spider-Man, and
yeah, that looks interesting actually, doesn't it?
yeah, it does.
I
And I'm
think
just looking forward to the next few years now on what's going to come. I've obviously seen the schedule, but we don't know what films they are. But it'll be interesting.
interesting, especially with the like the X-Men and Fantastic Four lurking about.
Oh,
It's
I'm not interested in them.
no,
No, they just
I don't know. I'm interested to see because Marvel are it's Marvel like films. They very rarely put a foot wrong. So I'm interested how they rejuvenate all those characters because a lot of them are very damaged from the terrible films over the last couple of years. Apart from Wolverine and Hugh Jackman probably won't be in it. So I am interested in how they'll
yeah.
achieve, how they'll bring them in.
Yeah, no, do you know what? You're right. I'm lying. I am. I will be interested to see what they do, but yeah, it's gonna have to be good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it could be their, if they don't do it well, it could be their first sort of misstep. But, when you've done, was it 23 films and pretty much all of them have been very good to excellent, you've got to give them a bit of leeway and expect that they'll probably do quite well.
No, it's true. It's true. No, I'll be interested to see what happens. Sorry, I took you off subject then, didn't I?
No, you're right. I do it all the time. I just go off, just talking. On your Wikipedia page, which obviously cannot sometimes is not always reliable, it says you appeared in Doctor Who, and Torchwood. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that has come back to bite me on the bum, really, because my Wikipedia page, I have no clue who started it. No clue. And I cannot lie, I was only ever an extra in them. And so I literally have very little to talk about them. It's so funny.
No.
People have found that, and I should probably amend that myself, shouldn't I? I should probably put on there extra. I mean, because one, and it was Torchwood, I'd come out of a gig in Cardiff, and with a mate of mine, and they were signing people up because they were doing a big outdoor scene, and they just needed more people in this crowd scene, and so I did that. So I'm not even sure how that even got on Wikipedia. So, but it's sort of come back to, so that even when I did Mastermind, Celebrity Mastermind, yeah. John Humphreys asked me about it on that, and I was like, oh my gosh, because people are thinking that I was, a character, or maybe a speaking
character.
No.
I see.
Because that would be a good role.
All Doctor Who's, and I couldn't remember seeing you, and I thought maybe you were like, you played yourself on like a TV set or something in the background, or just something when I missed it. And no, you were not. So you were just an extra.
I had a mask on
with a big mask on, and
yeah, exactly.
No,
I was inside the Dalek.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds a bit.
that would be another dream role, I think. I don't know. You just roll around in one of those for a bit.
Oh, I'd be the Doctor. I'd love to be. I say, I'd love to. No one would love to do that, would they? Surely, but that would be a good role. Oh, although I think Jodie Whittaker nailed that last series.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen a lot of them, and I thought she was really good. I'm a big fan of hers. I think she's really, really fantastic actress.
Yeah,
her and Vicky McClure are my favourite female actresses at the moment from the British side of things.
They're fantastic. Oh, and you had Vicky's partner Johnny. You had Johnny Owen on.
I did. Yeah, he was my third show, I think, and I was really chuffed because I'd sort of sent him a message, thinking, he's not going to say yes. He's very busy, very successful, and I'd seen him post a few weeks before that he doesn't really do a lot of podcasts. He's got his own, which is I think he does one on Notts Forest. And he said straight away, he said, yeah, I'll come on. And we just talked a bit of football, a bit of films and Line of Duty. But I was so grateful to him because at that point, I had 2 shows out. And the first show I did, the quality is really bad because I didn't have a decent camera. So, luckily he didn't look at the first show and think, oh, I'm going on that. No, I'm super grateful to all like yourself and all the guests who've come on, because like a lot of people, like I don't expect. I ask them and I'll be upfront. I'll say, look, this is what we do. Same as what I did with you. I just say, this is what we do. This is what we talk about. It'll be about an hour. Would you be all right? And the majority of people who I asked have answered. And I've been pleasantly surprised by the responses I've got, because most of them have said yes. And even Tyson Fury's manager got back to me, and I messaged him on like just a complete, yeah, just not even expecting a response. And he responded and said, we get a lot of requests, etc., etc. But I mean, I didn't expect Tyson Fury to come on my show, but I just thought that it was nice for him to reply and just be just decent, I suppose. And it's just, he didn't have to take the time out of his day to do that.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
I'm not the BBC or Sky or Joe Rogan or something like this.
if you Joe
It's
Rogan,
just a
well,
guy in my house.
if you don't ask,
You don't get that's what I've said in a lot of the people I've spoken to recently. Is I'll say, look, I completely understand if you can't or you don't want to do it. It's not a problem. But I just thought the worst you can say is no, and
absolutely.
is what it is. Like the mental health podcast, people are quite receptive to them because at the moment there's like a big push, isn't there, for not a push, but like people are trying to spread the word. So there's people are more, I think, more willing to talk about it than ever.
Hmm.
In
I
terms of
think we're
that.
trying to make progress, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't it? From a couple of years ago. Just before we go over to football, can you tell me about trashed TV and what it is? Because it looks bloody amazing.
Like, well, so trash. So I was introduced to a guy called Jason. He's the guy that I do trashed with, because basically I wanted to do something online with. I love my music, and I wanted to do something online that was interviews with bands, with artists, and a friend of mine knew Jason, and Jason had an idea called Trashed, and he wanted to do something very similar, but also have a live show. So my friend introduced us and said, "You two should get together." And so basically, what we've done here in Manchester is an event called Trashed. So Trash TV Live. So we have a venue in town, and we've had evenings, and the evening is very much like a mishmash of music programs like Jules Holland, the Tube from back in the day, The Word,
Good.
yeah, TFI Friday,
Mm.
that kind of thing, where it's not just a straightforward gig. We have live bands, we have acoustic performances, we have poetry performances, performances from poets. We have artists there on the night, displaying some of their work, but also creating pieces of art on the night. And then I have my sofa area where I have interviews with people in the music business, already established musicians. I've spoken to Clint Boone from the Spiral Carpets, who's a legend here in Manchester. And so that's what it is, and it's growing all the time, because off the back of that first event in November, we had the festival Kendal Calling ask us to curate Saturday afternoon at one of their venues, the house party. So if anyone is going to Kendal Calling, come and see us on Saturday afternoon. And we've got some great bands. And then also Liverpool Sound City, which was last weekend. They asked us to go along and do something similar, host a venue throughout the weekend with interviews. So I mean, that was just amazing. I got to interview Vince Power, who's the man behind Mean Fiddler and the Leeds and Reading festivals, and he worked on Glastonbury and the Flower Festival. And then I interviewed Andy McCluskey from OMD, Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, a bit of 80s electronica.
Quality.
What a great guy he is. And then on the Sunday, I interviewed Paddy Considine, which was just unreal. He is the nicest guy, and just a wonderful actor. I love him. But a lot of people don't know that Paddy has a band, Riding the Low, and they performed, and they are epic, man. They are absolutely incredible, because Paddy's just so visceral, his performances, and yet he, one-on-one, he's just so soft and lovable. And in fact, we mentioned Jodie Whittaker earlier. Paddy wrote and directed, I believe, Journeyman, which was the end of last year, where he plays a boxer who has brain damage, and Jodie Whittaker's his wife. And that is absolutely fantastic. What an incredible performance from him. Just
I haven't seen that, and that's on my list of. I got a list of films that I want to watch, and I just haven't got around to doing. And that's one of them.
You must watch it. You must watch it. And so so Trashed is sort of taking on different forms, but ultimately we film them all, and we're just trying to get content for online so that people could, if they weren't at these festivals or at the live events, they can see some of these musical performances, and well, not just the music, but the interviews, and so that's what Trash did.
Is there somewhere where people can watch them at the moment, like the interview segments and stuff?
Yeah, so if you go Trash TV Live on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you'll find it, and you'll see that we've started to post. In fact, that some of those interviews that I just mentioned from Sound City have already gone up, and previous things, and other interviews with local bands up here in the Northwest, and so it's great. So if you love your music, Trash. And for me, it's just it's a labour of love.
It's my dream. That'd be my dream job. It's just interviewing like really cool bands. It's like that's like the ultimate job for me, because I love my music, and a lot of those people like Clint Boone. He'd be up there on my bucket list of people to interview. He's just a truly talented man.
Well, I'll try and make that happen
as well.
I'll try and make that happen for you, Clint. In fact, it's still. I've got. Okay, so this is random. So I'm buddies with Clint Boone, and a friend of mine, Kirk. In fact, this is the guy that introduced me and Jason, who now do Trashed. Kirk has a day job, and at night he's an artist, and he breaks vinyl records, smashes it up, and makes pictures.
Oh, I see.
They are absolutely incredible. And he did one of Clint for one of our Trash shows, and I think I've still got it here in the dining room because Clint hasn't picked it up yet. Now, hang on a second. I know this is unusual.
Oh, no, you want to have a look?
So,
oh wow,
there's Clint Boone in broken vinyl.
That is just incredible, isn't it?
And
how good is that?
When you have a look up close, it's just
you can see it.
Vinyl records. So maybe I'll just finish the interview like this.
Yeah, you crack on. He's one of the coolest men who's ever lived.
He's a very cool man, in fairness to Clint, and he's a beautiful man. That's good. So that's Trashed, and going forward, who knows? We're hoping to put on more live music events, and we got a couple of things, really exciting projects in the pipeline that I'm doing that I can't talk about, and I hate that. I hate it when that happens, when people do that. But it is really exciting. It's just to do with platforms and.
I'd love to see it on like a streaming platform or TV, or like TFI Friday. That was the last proper interview program which I would regularly watch. I think, like, as I've got older and I don't watch as much TV. But like I used to watch TFI religiously every Friday.
We all did, didn't we? Friday tea time.
So good when that Ocean Colour Sea music come on. Just it's very good TV.
Do you know what? I hate that song.
Yeah, but it's because you've heard it so many times.
Song. Oh no, I never liked it at the time.
Didn't you? I used to like it, and now it's one of those which I've just heard too many times. But then saying that, I've heard songs like Fear by Ian Brown infinite amount of times, and I could still listen to it.
He's class, isn't he? He's
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, I could him and Clint Boone. I could talk about for days and days.
Well,
I'm
here's
doing a show actually with
if
my
you love,
mate Jamesy, who's he's a bit of an expert on like '90s Manchester. So we're going to do a show in a couple of weeks, which is just going to talk about sort of bands and music and stuff from the '90s,
well,
'80s.
if you love the Stone Roses, here's one for
Oh, yeah.
you. And when I found out afterwards, it made my day. So on Cbeebies, we do the birthday cards, don't we? And we have a birthday card, and we read out kids' birthdays. And Manny, the bass player from the Roses, I actually read out his twin boys' birthday cards on Cbeebies. And I was like, oh yes, that is absolutely brilliant.
I'd be walking around with a smile on my face for weeks after that. I'd be telling everyone.
I was, and yeah, it was great. And then I was not long afterwards, I was lucky to go and see the Roses when they go back together at Heaton Park in Manchester.
Yeah,
so.
I got a bit of a story about that actually. My brother's a bit younger than me, and the Roses came onto the scene a little bit, sort of few years before I was old enough to go and see them in Newport.
Oh yeah, Newport Leisure Centre.
Yeah,
yeah.
I sort of was just a little bit too young for that.
You were too young.
By a few years, and so then when the Heaton Park thing happened, my brother got me and him tickets to see. I think it was the Sunday show, and I think he ended it. He got 4 tickets, like me, him, and a couple of others. And then I had some health problems. I didn't go.
Oh.
So like it was like this. I had this once in a lifetime opportunity to go and see my favorite band of all time. I had tickets, which I never thought would it be, never thought it would be a chance to go and see them. And then I wasn't able to go, and I've ruled the day ever since. But I mean, it's only really over the last sort of year or so that my health's got a bit better.
Okay.
So there was no way I could have done it. And like speaking to people who went there as well, going there on crutches would have been a nightmare. So.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, it was
like,
busy. I was there Friday and Saturday night, and yeah, you wouldn't have coped very well on crutches.
on atmosphere. Speaking of crutches, so the one and only time I met you was in the Carling Cup final, which story I'm not expecting you to remember.
Oh, I do.
But you might. But and I was on crutches, but because of obviously you can't park like you can in Cardiff City Stadium, park outside. I had to go in a wheelchair for the walk-in part basically, and I hated it. So whenever we'd stop and sort of have a beer, I would get up and use my crutches. And of course, throughout the day, as the beer started flowing, every now and again, I would just stand up and go, "It's a miracle!" And everyone would start cheering. And one of the times I did it, you sort of walked around and saw Hayley. And
I was going to say, it was with Hayley, wasn't it, outside?
Yeah. And so like when we came home, hungover and tired, and as it was, when I sort of showed my kids, they were all a bit younger then, so they still watched normal TV, and they was just like, "I thought you went to the football." And we're like, "Yeah, we went to the football." "How did you see Alex from Cbeebies?" And they were so chuffed. So I was really glad. And funny enough, my wife, on her, like on your bank card, you can have like a picture. She's still got the picture of us all in a group on her bank card.
No way.
So I might, for the thumbnail for this video, I might use that picture, thinking about it. Normally I get a picture of my guest and just like right over the top of it.
That was one of...
I might use that.
That
was the most exciting but devastating days ever.
Yeah. There was a moment there where I was as happy and joyous as I've ever been. I was with I was lucky I was able to take my brother with me because I was doing stuff for the BBC in the run up to it, and then bit for Radio Wales, BBC Wales on Wembley Way, and yeah, I was just lucky that I was able to take my brother with me. And I remember as Dirk Kuyt came on, I just looked at my brother and almost straight away we both said at the same time, he's going to score. He always used to score. Dirk Kuyt was one of those
habit, didn't he, of just coming on
and those players.
Goals.
But the moment that Turner equalised, man, I literally lost it. Me and my brother.
Yeah, I've never experienced a football moment like that. Even when Andy Campbell, I was at the Millennium Stadium when Andy Campbell scored against QPR, and I thought that was the best eve. That was the best night of my life. We just sat outside the City Arms till like 4 o'clock in the morning singing. But I mean,
there's
Ben Turner scoring was just incredible.
In fairness, the City, Cardiff have given me a few wonderfully joyous moments.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the other one for me is, so Joe Ledley was local to me in Fairwater, so he's I mean, he's a lot younger than me. He was I mean, my brother used to hang around with his brother, and Joe as a little lad would sometimes come and kick about with us and that. So we're all very proud of Joe Ledley in Fairwater. And me and my brother took my dad to the Championship playoff in Wembley when we played Blackpool.
Yeah.
And even though that result didn't go our way, that moment when Joe scored,
incredible.
Me, my brother, and my dad, who was in his 70s, just went absolutely bonkers. Bonkers. Oh, I just feel it now. I regularly watch all these moments on the internet still.
Yeah, I do as well. And some of them still bring a tear to my eye. The Ben Turner one.
Oh, the Ben Turner.
I remember the feeling of being out of control. And I remember my wife grabbing me by the wrist because I was on crutches and in a wheelchair, and I kind of leapt out of the chair and was sort of waving my crutches around or whatever, and she was like grabbing my wrist to make sure I didn't topple over either onto the floor or over the front of the drop. It was just incredible. And
it was a great moment. Of
course, when he scores, you're thinking it's extra time. You're thinking this is it. We're going to win, because they're never going to come back from this, because they thought they had it in the bag, and then it goes to penalties and it all goes wrong. But
it was all going right, wasn't it?
It
was all going right in the penalties, and then bless him,
Anthony Gerrard, he never recovered from that.
And bless him, I don't think he should have taken that penalty either.
Been put in a position, should
he? I'd interviewed him that week in the run-up, and his boy, and I don't know if many people noticed, but his boy had been in hospital and was really quite ill. And when Turner scores, you see Gerrard run towards us, to us fans, because his family up there, and pull his shirt up, and he had something to do with his son on. And so he'd been very emotional that week. He was on the bench, wasn't he? And when I saw that he was taking a penalty, I genuinely thought he shouldn't be doing this because he's mentally not in the right place. Now, he probably had adrenaline and everything going round, and he thought he could do it. And do you know what? I probably wouldn't step up and score that penalty, but when I saw it was him, I just thought, he's not scoring this. And sadly,
he seems like the sort of guy who would step up, though, doesn't he? He seems like that type of guy who would say, I'll take
what? He's someone, and I'm happy to say this, especially if there's Cardiff fans listen, he's someone that gets a lot of stick, and as yeah, he gets a lot of stick, and I think is quite misunderstood. But actually, he is a lovely guy. He is, genuinely, to kind of phrase, the salt of the earth, one of those kind of guys. And in fairness to Cardiff, I have no qualms. I know a lot of fans weren't um, big fans of his. I was, and whenever he was on the pitch, you could see his commitment, and in fact, you couldn't see, you could hear it as well. You knew that he would give it his all when he came on the pitch, whether he was starting or coming on as sub. You knew he'd give nothing less than his all. So yeah. I'm a fan of Ant. I think he's a good lad. He's not Kevin McNaughton, is he? But then,
who is? He, I think Andy Gerrard. I thought he had a very good season last season as well.
Yeah,
and
I
think the sort of the fallout of that penalty, I think he never quite got back to that form afterwards. There was sort of rumours of fallings out with the manager on, whatever, as there is at any football club. But he never seemed to quite get back that form. But I thought he was very unlucky not to start the final. And now that you've said that about his son, I wonder whether that played a role into it, because it was an emotional game for him anyway, because of obviously the Liverpool and the family connections. So even without his son being ill, it would have been a very emotional, passionate day for him.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you add in that as well, it's just, we're all human beings, and you can't control like raw emotion. It doesn't matter how cool, calm and collected you are. There's some things you cannot get a handle on, or you can't control. And your kids being ill is one of those things which is very difficult to go about your business, whatever it may be, day to day.
Oh, I'm useless like that. Like genuinely, just last night, my son, he's always hurting himself somehow, and it's always really daft as well. So last night, when he should have been in bed, it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock or something. No, that's a lie. It was earlier. And not that matters. He was messing about in his bedroom, and he was climbing on. He's got an amp, a music amp he's got an electric drum kit. He was climbing around with that, and we heard this massive thud. And we go up, and he's just he's got massive bruise on his leg, a massive lump, or he's grazed all under him, and I thought he'd broken his leg, and me straight away, I see it, and I just want to throw up, and I just all weak, I'm useless. So my wife has to sort of step in.
My son broke his arm.
Anything to do with my kids like that, I can't. I'm awful. And if there was anything serious with them, don't know how they do it. And I've been to a lot of children's wards in hospitals, because of the Cbeebies thing, and oh man, I have endless amounts of respect and love for parents who see their children through illnesses and life-threatening and ultimately life-ending illnesses. It's amazing. So I don't know how anyone would concentrate like that. Well, so I've taken you way off.
No, it's all good. My son broke his arm at the end of the sort of football season, and he's 10.
Yeah, mine is too.
He did it. He plays football every day for a different place. He plays like academy football and whatever. So he plays like for the school, for his club, for his academy, just constantly playing or training. And then he broke his arm Sunday morning at free running, and it's just like, oh God. And I actually, for the first time, didn't just go to pieces and panic, which is unusual because I'm normally the one who would panic and be like, oh my God, well, my wife is like recovery position or whatever, just like straight in, do this, do that, whatever you got to do. But I was on my own, so I don't know if that made a difference. It was just me and him and his older brother, so maybe it was because I had to.
I'm the one that will kill us in the car on the way to the hospital.
Yeah, panicking and just
Yeah, useless.
screeching around corners. So back to Cardiff, just very briefly.
Mm.
Did you go to watch them much when you were younger?
Yeah, all the time. I have a lifelong relationship. So I've so as a young lad, I had I called him Grampy Bert. Okay, and I have to be careful how I speak about this. Because I never know who's listening, and I've never really spoken too much publicly about it. But Grampy Bert, he wasn't biologically, he wasn't my grandfather, but he was Grampy Bert, and he was Ernie Curtis. Now, Ernie Curtis played on the left wing for the City in the 1927 Cup final. And I love seeing all those pics of that final, and he was essentially my grandfather. So there were issues within his family, should we say, and so he was very close with my mum and my grandparents, and so actually I grew up going to Cardiff with Grampy Bert, and that was amazing because he was treated like a god, and he was also the last remaining survivor of that team as well. He was the last one to die, and so I mean I would laugh about it now because luckily I've had various corporate experiences in the new Cardiff Stadium, in Wembley, or the Etihad, or Old Trafford as well, and it's hilariously posh and what have you. But back then as a kid, we'd be taken into the special room, wherever that was in Ninian Park, and he never would buy a drink. He never paid for a drink. They always gave him drinks, and they'd always give me lemonade and a pasty. And for me, that was like a corporate day out, mate.
Yeah, that's the thing is though, as a kid, isn't it? It's just like you walking in,
absolutely
like
amazing.
It's just unbelievable.
And we sat in posh wooden seats, which makes me laugh. That's like an oxymoron, that, isn't it? But they were like posh wooden seats. No, they really weren't. But sat there in the grandstand with him, and everyone would be like, "Hi, Ern," and "Hi, Ern." And so yeah, I grew up very much following Cardiff, and we still have some of his things that he left before he died to my mum and to my brother. So we have a few things between us that we remember him by, a shirt and a cap and a ring and stuff. And so yeah, I have really fond memories of Grampy Bert. I'm watching Cardiff, and I wish he'd been around to see, the sort of last 10 years.
Yeah,
he'd have enjoyed it. And I think as well he'd have enjoyed seeing Fred get a statue at the ground. I think he would have. I think he'd have liked that. So yeah, I grew up going to the City, and then after Grampy Bert died and I was in school or high school and that, I kept going, and I was just like everyone else. I was cutting the coupon off the back of the South Wales Echo to get in for £1, and when I see Damon Searle, remember Damon, our left back?
Yeah.
He works at the club now, and my sister works at the club, and they went to school together as well. So I often see Damon, and I like to remind Damon that one of the best nights I ever had, it was Tuesday night, and I'd gone to the match, and I'd gone knowing that it was parents' evening, and I knew that there was going to be a few issues. I was generally a good pupil, but there was going to be a couple of issues, and so I was just getting away. But it was against Walsall, and Damon Searle scored this absolute belter of a free kick, And I just remember, as always happened, in the Bob Bank, you know, it was all standing, that big rush to
Yeah, the surge down in front.
the big surge. And I say that game, I had no clue how many there were, but I'm not sure it was that many. so
Not many,
so
probably.
I carried on seeing them, and then when I came back to Cardiff, because I went to university and then lived up north for a bit, and then came back. I was a season ticket holder, and then, you know, had those wonderful times of crying my eyes out at Wembley at the FA Cup final when they played the anthem, and you know, our efforts in the Championship, and you know, right up to Sunday, just now, I was sat at Old Trafford watching us beat United 2-0, and that was absolutely brilliant. I loved every minute.
Yeah, I was going to say, so.
But I was sat with the United fans.
I was going to say, I saw on your Twitter that you go with your friend's son, is it? To Old Trafford. So you go there semi-regularly, do you, now and again?
Yeah. I've been quite a few times. So I'm still up in Manchester, and yeah, my friend's son, he's in a wheelchair, and he gets tickets, and so he needs a carer with him, and so I often go with him. And I said to him and his mum, because his mum's one of my very best friends, and I said, if you get tickets for the last game of the season, because as soon as the fixtures were announced, I said, last game of the season, Cardiff at Old Trafford, I said, I'm with you. And it was, I mean, it's the disabled section, so I'm not going to cause trouble or get carried away, but it's right behind the goal, and you always see it on Match of the Day, and I checked, you can see me as well. But it was boiling. I didn't realise how hot it was going to be. So I had my City shirt on, but I had like just a light coat over it. And so we sat down in the seats, and the sun was just glaring. I mean, that's why I've got a massive red head. And I just took the jacket off, and I went, do you know what? If someone has a problem, then that's going to be weird. But I just sat there joyfully with my City shirt on, and enjoyed every moment. Did you see the video I posted of the penalty?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Video of the penalty and the City fans, because the City fans were just amazing, best fans around. And then
so loud when they all the way through.
Said Louis and his face. Oh, it was just so funny. And when we scored the second, his face again. Oh, it was just brilliant. So I love Cardiff. I love Cardiff, and that's why I mentioned, you know, Kev's testimonial. That was just a boy dream to be able to get out there and play. And so, yeah, I love the City, Bluebirds.
Yeah, indeed. I did so yesterday night I did a show with football journalist Phil Brown, who's a Man United fan.
Yes.
And I'm relatively tuned in to what's going on at Man United, because I used to watch him with my father when I was younger, and then he died when I was about 16. So I kind of just kept keeping an eye on them. So like when I was little, I used to have like a load of Cardiff kits, and then I used to have all like the Man United stickers, and so I used to have both, and I kind of just kept in touch with what was going on at both clubs. As you know, I was more concerned with Cardiff, but I always knew what was going on with Man United.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And so Phil, we spent like an hour yesterday putting the world to rights, but yeah, he's not best pleased at the moment with his football club.
Oh,
but,
no.
It looks like if you go to Old Trafford, you'll be seeing young Dan James playing a bit more next year, maybe. If he goes there.
Do you know what? If that actually happens, I think that's brilliant.
Isn't it?
I mean, for me, that'll be great, because I have always kept an eye on United, and it was interesting to watch it from that point of view. Literally, we were watching a massive club crumble on Sunday, and that's not taking anything away from the Bluebirds, because we deserved it. Cardiff deserved it. We, you know, went all out, and actually, if we could finish properly, we'd have scored, you know, 4 or 5. You know, the amount of chances we put over the bar.
Story of the season, then one that to take their chances throughout the season. And I think considering we had a predominantly championship squad, you know, like the way I look at it is in the summer now, how many of those players will be snapped up by Premier League clubs? And I think probably Etheridge, maybe.
I don't think he was.
Harry Arter and Camarasa, who were on loan. Other than that, I don't think there's
talk about Josh Murphy, isn't there?
Yeah, maybe.
I personally am not sure that we're going to lose any players to Premier League teams. And if we do, it'll be 1 or 2. And again, I don't even think Neil Etheridge will. When you look at our stats, and I absolutely love Etheridge, and he's been brilliant. But when you look at certain stats of City's from this season, it's very telling. And the way that clubs work now, it's very rare that a manager would look at Etheridge's performance and think he's kept that team in a lot of games. They'll look at all the stats, and the stats for Etheridge, sadly, don't look great. And let's be honest, we love him. His balls out from the back and stuff like that are dire.
I was going to say, my oldest boy is a goalie who plays for Tapswell, and he's got, like I say, he's a goalie. And one of his weaknesses is his distribution with his feet. He can throw it really well. He could throw it miles as well, but from a completely dead ball, he struggles a little bit. And I think that's Etheridge. His distribution really lets him down. And puts the defence under pressure a lot.
Yeah, absolutely does.
The last sort of month of the season, I noticed a lot is we win the ball back quite quickly, and we around our own box, we intercept balls and we pressure and we get the ball back, and then we give it away straight away. And 9 times out of 10, we give it away in a worse position than where we'd won it back in the first place. And I think you can't do that at the very top levels, can you? It's like you're almost helping the other team by, have it over here. It's much better, but there.
Don't you just love being a Cardiff fan, though?
Oh, yeah. It's painfully, but it's fun. Painfully fun.
And I think if the majority of this team sticks together, I think we can go back up next year.
They needed a goal scorer. They needed a goal scorer last summer, and I think obviously you had the unfortunate stuff which happened in the January window, which you obviously no one was expecting that, and it's very difficult to come back from that. But I think I felt like they should have signed a striker last summer before they came into the Premier League, and we didn't. And I think ultimately we paid the price for that because we didn't score enough goals.
No, I think team selection though was an issue.
Yeah. I think what was infuriating for me about that is how little games Bobby Reid played over the season, how many games he'd started. I felt that was incredibly frustrating, especially when you watched him in the last couple of games, slipping little balls in to Zahor and all the things we've lacked for a large part of the season.
I think a lot of people don't want to say it or admit it because Warnock has been fantastic. It's been such a tragically unique season that I have nothing but love for him. But he is responsible, I think, through quite a few of his team decisions for us losing points. I think that's hard for a lot of fans to admit. For me personally, in a perfect world, Neil Warnock himself decides that he wants to call it a day, and we find someone now in this position who's young, forward-thinking, and can take us forward. Because it seems like Warnock is staying, isn't it? He's going to stay now.
Stewton, maybe?
Yeah. Hey, that's a surprise. Graham Potter may be leaving the Swans to go to Brighton. that.
It's a weird one. I think Skewton's a really good manager.
I do. I think Graham Potter is fantastic.
Do you know the weird thing with Chris Hughton is there's been a few clubs now where he seems to be doing well, and then all of a sudden he gets sacked, and it doesn't quite fit. Like he doesn't seem to be like, he's going down the pan and they're losing games and they're struggling. And I know they didn't finish the season great, but he kept them up.
Yeah, he kept them up, and I just think
we need someone.
I think we need someone more long term now. I think Cardiff, in this position where we've got a good team and we've got a little bit of money and we've got those payments, I think we need someone that's going to build. Because if Warnock is staying next season and we somehow get back up to the Premier League again, what then? He's probably not going to stay another season. So we have to start again then with a new manager. I just think now, and I know a lot of the fans were chanting on Sunday to Warnock, we want you to stay. And was it official yesterday, the announcement that he's staying?
I think Vincent Tan had said something to the Echo that he was going to stay. But the way I read that was that
it didn't look
saying that was him saying that he's not going to sack him, as opposed to the club officially announcing.
And of course, if he did stay, I'd be right behind him, because again, I have a lot of respect for him. But I think for the future of the club, it would be best to get someone new in,
right time, isn't it?
And I could talk about Cardiff all.
Yes, I'm the same. I think it's the right time for him to move. I think as well. I think if we'd stayed up, I do think he would have stepped down. I think he wants, because he'd never stayed up, and I think everything that happened. I believe that if they'd stayed up, I think he would have moved. He would have retired then.
Yeah.
But I suppose we'll see. So, you all right to keep talking? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm all right. Yeah.
So just moving away from footy, and TV, we spoke earlier this morning, and you told me something which I was not aware of, and it just took me a bit by surprise. Not for any other reason than I just didn't realise. So you were brought up as a Mormon. Is it more? You'd have to excuse my ignorance because I'm not familiar with it at all. Is it Mormonism or Mormon as a Mormon? I apologise.
No, don't apologise.
I'm not familiar with it at all. So you were brought up in Cardiff, as we've discussed. So before we sort of get into the upbringing and whatnot, for people like myself who don't really know much about it, what does Mormonism entail, or what's the difference, I guess, from other religions, or what? How would you explain that, I guess?
It's a Christian religion, and the name is often referred to as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I suppose the nickname has become Mormon or Mormons. And it's a Christian religion, and they believe it is very Christian, but it's in as much as they read from the Bible, but they also have something called the Book of Mormon. And the Book of Mormon is a history of people in the Americas, and they believe that Christ visited those people in the Americas. So actually, it's on the surface, it's nothing sensational, or and if you were to go on a Sunday, it's very similar to other Christian religions, sort of like maybe Methodist, not quite born again, and so I was born and brought up going to church. There's the big church is in Rubina.
Yep, yeah, I know.
Corner of Hale Llanishenbach.
Yeah, I know the one.
The Derry Inn.
Yeah, it's quite quite big, isn't it? And it's
yeah, it's a big old.
see it from all around.
Yeah, it's a big old building. So yeah, no, I was born and brought up in that religion, so it had a huge effect on my life, and still does, even though I'm not active, and my wife, my family, we don't go. It's had a massive effect on my life, on how I think and how I act, and perhaps where I am in my life as well, because it's very patriarchal.
Okay.
So it's I felt a lot of pressure to be certain things, to be the father who provides, to get that sort of job and provide that sort of steady thing, which perhaps naturally actually isn't myself. I think I would have, and I've said this to my wife, I think I actually would love to have been a stay-at-home dad, but there is just sort of that dissonance when you're brought up with a religion and certain beliefs, no matter what they are. It doesn't matter what they are. It's hard to think outside, and it's been hard for me adjusting since leaving. It is adjusting my thoughts and coming to terms with various things that might seem a bit existential or a bit boring to people, but just realigning my brain or readjusting my brain to what I believe in now. So it could all be very very deep and very boring. I don't know, but
No, I think
it's something that has been a huge part of my life.
I think like not just with yourself, but what interests me is when if people are brought up in religion, whatever religion it is, and if it's relatively like not a strict upbringing, but like if you're like a regular churchgoer, sort of not a once in a while, if you go to your church or your synagogue or your mosque, wherever it is, and then as you get from a child to a teenager and you go towards adulthood, it's those people who, if they decide that it's not for them, you've almost got to completely change. It's hard to put a percentage on it, but you've got to change a large part of the way your brain has worked for those. So if you're 18, say, you've had 18 years of thinking a certain way and being told this is the way this is and this is the way that is. So I think it can have an impact on someone's mental health, particularly I think, as you know, being a teenager is very, very hard. And I think if I'm not saying for you, I'm saying generally now, is if someone's been in a sort of a strict religious household and they're in their mind are thinking it's not for them, and at home they're being, told they've got to go to church or mosque, whatever.
Yeah.
When they go into adulthood, being a teenager is very, very hard. Sorry, I'm going off a bit on a tangent. When you've almost got to retrain your brain then when you leave the religion or when you decide that religion maybe is not for you and you're an adult and you can make your own decisions. You've got to retrain your brain out of, I wouldn't say bad habits, but maybe things that deep down
just habits.
You don't believe. Yeah. Just because if you do something day in, day out for your whole childhood and your teenage years, it's what you do, isn't it? It's if you go to church every Sunday for 18 years, it's very difficult not to do that. But also when you go to church or when you discuss what you want to do when you're when you leave school, what do you want to do? You're going to be influenced by those the word I'm looking for. Like the structure and the beliefs that have been set for you by your family or the religion that they're a part of. Do you know what I mean? So I think it could be very difficult.
Yeah. It was a it was a huge moment, and a huge, not moment, because it lasted a while, but it was a huge transition for me in my life, and caused a lot of anxiety, confusion, uh, torment as well, and was really not in many ways was really not a good experience at all, um, because there was concern about what my family would think, any fallout with that, and that's from my wife or my family, my parents, my siblings, friends, and then there was personal things that I then had to try to understand, because I then realized that my whole way of thinking and acting and feeling in certain situations was all almost like muscle memory, was all affected by the upbringing or conditioning that I had in a religion. So even something that might seem daft. So I had a genuine belief in life after death, and that I'd live with my family. Now I'm as an adult, having to adjust to the fact that, well, that's probably not true. And so, rather than having my whole life to sort of think or subconsciously think about that, I'm now just sort of come to terms with that, as well as other thoughts about whether there is a God or whether there's anything sort of related. So it's been a mental torment, but it felt like a weight off my shoulders as well.
I can only imagine. I can like,
and that sounds disrespectful, because that sounds like people who choose to be religious in any way have a weight on their shoulders. Which
I
don't mean that at all for me. But for me, I just felt that I didn't have personal integrity, because some of those beliefs just hugely clashed with what I thought. For example, views on LGBT community. I couldn't understand why that would be deemed as wrong or as a sin or unnatural or anything like that. I'd literally grown up around people who were gay and are gay, and I just never looked at them as anything other than a friend and totally normal. So just things like that, I felt that I didn't have integrity by being part of a belief system that thought that they were wrong or sinful. Even saying that word seems weird to me now. So
I mean, it must have. Sorry, I could say it must have had it must have put a tremendous amount of pressure on your mental health and on you mentally to feel those clashes, and those, you're almost like fighting a battle within yourself even before you discuss it with other people, because you've been, on one hand, you've been brought up to believe these things, and then on the other hand, you're thinking, well, no, I don't agree with that, and that's before you even just discuss it with your parents or your wife or whoever else. So I can only imagine, like, it must have felt like a big pressure build up for you.
Oh, it was an internal battle, turmoil, and initially it lasted a couple of years on my own before I even chose to speak about it. And yeah, I mean, it caused sickness and severe anxiety, severe stress. And unless you've been in that position, it's hard to understand what it's like to be conditioned in some way from birth, So it would be like, a red Scouser, born and bred red, Liverpool, and then in adulthood told that actually Everton are the best and you need to support them. Well, no, because you're conditioned one way. Now that's sort of making light of it, but it's
I know what you mean.
Sort of that ingrained, to use that football thing, because we all know how tribal football is. Well, if you imagine, you taking, you're a father, you take a newborn baby, and if you teach it certain ways, good or bad, it will grow up like that, and then to change so far down the line is really, really difficult, and it was painful. And there are still things that come up now that I sort of still battle with.
Yeah. So how old were you when you first sort of felt a bit
Way back.
at odds with perhaps what was?
I was a teenager. Way back as a teenager.
And again, I go back teenage years, very hard anyway.
So
that must have been, that's like another. If you've got like a bowl of all the things that are going on as a teenager, that's like another big thing in that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it, really? As if you haven't got enough going on as a teenager.
No.
And so, yeah, it was way back then. But, genuinely, I don't have time to talk about it all at the moment because it would take hours. But there's just circumstances and moments that would happen that my brain that I was taught to feel were sort of God intervening, if you like. And so that's, just ignore that, just carry on. And so we all have our moments of what breaks, not breaks, of change. So it could be someone who's suffering abuse at the hand of their husband, wife. People on the outside think, what are you doing? Leave him or leave her alone. Get out of there. But until their brain tells them, they don't go. So in my case, it took a long while for me to then go, hang on a sec, and it just happens. And I don't know why then specifically, or, there's a few factors, but yes, but it was a long journey, but I feel at peace with that decision now, and yeah, I feel integrity, and I feel renewed. It's like renewed in certain senses.
Like I'm a big believer that in order for a person's mental health to be tip top and to be as good as it can be, you have to be true to yourself. Because if you're not, you have that inner turmoil, which then can lead to problems X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. And I think, not to say that if you're just true to yourself that you'll never have a mental health problem. I'm not saying that, obviously. I just mean that I believe that that's a big part of trying to sort of keep yourself mentally healthy. And I think if you've got turmoil of any kind, not just like what you've described, if there's something weighing on your mind, or you're guilty of something, or you're ashamed of something which happened when you were sort of younger, like you say, with people who've been abused and they've never talked about it, that shame and that turmoil can weigh on them for years and years and years, until one day something can happen, or something said, or enough's enough, and there's like a breaking point, if you like. But it's not necessarily like a breaking point, it's just a point where, like you say, the change comes in. So I find it, I'm trying to make sure I word it correctly, but so now, do you feel like, do you look back and feel as if since you sort of have stepped away from it, that you feel better, like with your mental health and stuff like that? Do you feel like it's made a huge difference, a big difference, a little difference?
Massive. I think it's still a process, but I think ultimately it's leading and has led to doing what you said. And you know what? Without sounding rude, it's probably a good place to end it with your point, because the point you made, I think, is the point that I would want people to take away, not just from this interview, but from the chat we've had, is that you've got to be true to yourself. And that's such a cliche, because people say it all the time, just be true to yourself. But I think the problem with that is that people don't think about what that means. And I've lived with conflict in my head, in my brain. And that is not healthy and resulted in just an explosion. And so once you experience that, you then know the power and freedom that comes from living your true self and finding what that is and living your true self. And you know what? That's all I want in my life. And that's all I want for my children. I just want my children to live the very best life they can in a way that they feel, that they want to feel, and in a way that they are able to learn and to have experiences themselves and have their own mind. And if people do that, I think they'll have a good life.
Yeah, I think it's all about learning in everything. If you learn from your mistakes, you can only get better. But I think obviously the best way to learn is to learn by your mistakes. And like what you just said about what you want your children to do, I want my children to learn by their mistakes, not mine.
Yeah.
And like I did a show before on like grief and depression, where I talked a lot about some of the issues I had after my father died. And a big part of that was that I felt like I was living what people wanted me to do, rather than what I needed to do for me and what I wanted to do for me. And I think it's hugely important to do that. Obviously, it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week. If anyone watching is suffered or suffering with any mental health issues, then please know that you're not alone. You can reach out to anybody, even if it's me. All my messages and everything are open. And if anyone wants to drop me a line, I know a few people did after one of the other shows we did. And I'll do my best to talk to you, help you, speak to you, whatever needs to be done. But basically, it's okay to not be okay. Mental health does not discriminate in terms of, it doesn't matter if you're a multi-millionaire celebrity footballer or you're on benefits somewhere or you're homeless, it does not discriminate. Anyone can be affected.
That's right.
And I think it's absolutely vital that we encourage people to address and talk about their mental health. So I think we'll end by there. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a little bit longer than perhaps I said to you initially, but hopefully that was okay. Tell people where they can find you on Twitter.
So yeah, I'm on Twitter. On Twitter, Alex Winters TV, and then there's Trash TV as well. So yeah, you can find me on there. Say hello, and hopefully when I'm back in Cardiff soon, I'll come say hello to you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put all the links to the Trash TV website and everything in the description of the video and on Facebook. And
Nice.
What was the festival you said that you were going to be at?
So Kendall Calling.
That's it, Kendall Calling. I'll find the website for that and I'll put that in there as well.
Brilliant. Really appreciate it.
No worries. I'm so grateful for you coming on, Alex, and I appreciate your honesty as always. And I could always, talk Cardiff City for days and days and days, man. So, guys, you can find us on Ace Podcast Nation on Facebook. Twitter is at ACEcast_nation. And on YouTube, if you could all please do me a huge favor, go over to our YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, as that's the quickest and best way to support us currently. Thanks again, Alex. Thanks to everyone who's watched, listened, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.
Thank you.